Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our newest episode, latest edition of our midweek devotion time. I'm super glad that you're here. We've made it to the middle of the week, or whenever it is that you come across this video. But it's our next introduction into a new symbol and the history of that symbol. So again, all of this isn't all that I want to cover. But as I get done with this, then I'll put other ones up. I'm just kind of deleting through this little list in my mind. Last week, if you didn't catch it, we talked through that one upper middle, that ichthus, the fish, and the symbology, meaning behind that symbol, the earliest Christian symbol of them all. We haven't made it to the cross. I'm holding out. I'm waiting on that one. But we're moving to another symbol that becomes extremely popular based on the sort of switch in history from Christianity being outlawed in this great and mighty Roman Empire to being eventually, I don't want to say inlawed, but that's not how it should be worded. It becomes illegal to not be Christian. They do a complete 180 from being illegal to practice Christianity in the Roman Empire to becoming, I don't care what you believe in the Roman Empire, but you must also agree to basically identifying as a Christian. And all of that has a historical moment where it kind of, the trigger point, it doesn't immediately happen, but the trigger point of it comes as the result of a battle and a reported vision. And even to this day, questions about the man who had the vision and what was done and was it all true. Anyway, but that symbol, dead in the middle, is the one that I want to talk about this evening. The red background, it looks like a really long P with an X in it. And that symbol, it has no name, as it were. It's literally just the identification of the Greek letters that you see in front of you there, CHI and RHO, the CHI RHO symbol of Christianity. And so I think that I set this up correctly because it's keyboard buttons and mouse clicking, but let's see what happens. This, so far, so good. I'm going to leave that above me so that you can kind of keep track of just how this sort of symbol originated. It has so many variants at this point in history, but really the CHI RHO symbol started just kind of basically like you see above my head there, with just again in English, what we would call a really long P and a really kind of squatted out X symbol that's drawn and written all sorts of ways. But that really long P is the Greek letter RHO, sorry, the P is the RHO, and then that X is the Greek letter chi. There is a similar symbol, and I'm actually going to mention it, the tau RHO, and the tau RHO maintains the really long P, but instead of an X, it just has a crossbar to look like a T, and I will get to that in a moment so that you can see the difference. Sometimes people confuse them, and there was some historical fusion on which symbol was being mentioned about seeing this vision that we're going to get to. But so we have the CHI RHO. All right, so here is the Greek word Christos behind me on the wall there, as it were. And so you have CHI RHO, iota, sigma, tau, omicron, sigma. That's those letters. So chi makes the k sound, and then rho, so Christos. This is the word Christ in Greek. So you could also say this is the word Messiah when I translate it into Greek. So Christ is written like this, and so the symbol itself is literally taking the first two letters of the word you see and just kind of superimposing one on the other. So you have the chi symbol, you have the rho symbol. You just lengthen the leg, I suppose, of the rho and unite it with the chi. And when I make this go away, you easily see above me the CHI RHO symbol and where it came from. Now, I have some art for you to look at because the symbol itself largely finds its origin, and this is a little historical, are we really sure, as far as the symbol itself. But the man that you see riding the white horse on, at least I think you see it on the left of your image, that is intended to represent the Emperor Constantine. And so during an extremely important battle in Constantine's early rule in Rome, known as the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, Constantine is at war battling with another man laying claim to the title emperor, and that man's name is Maxinius. And Maxinius is going against Constantine, and the story is, and this story is recorded by two different historians, Eusebius and then a guy whose name starts with L, and I can't remember. But the story is that Constantine, the night before this battle took place, couldn't sleep and was having trouble. He was very burdened by what might go down, and victory was not assured. Constantine either, this is where it gets kind of muddy, either does fall asleep and has a dream or has a vision. And in that dream/vision, he sees the symbol of Christ, the Christianity in symbol form, as it were, descending from the sky, and he hears a voice say, "In this, conquer." Now, sometimes it will be, when this is written or mentioned, it'll get, instead of just "in this, conquer," you might hear somebody say that he heard the voice say, "By this sign, conquer," or "through this symbol, conquer," whatever. But literally, the testimony of Constantine on his deathbed, when he was asked to restate this story, it was "in this, conquer." So let me see. I'm just going to click back. So you have Constantine there, and interestingly enough, in this depiction, you see that sort of almost halo glowing around him. It's signifying his importance for us. And I wish I could read to you what's written on that cross, but that's the representation of that symbol coming down to him from the sky, that he might conquer in the battle to come. And so here's another depiction, this artist of the actual battle. So dead center of your screen, you see the guy wearing golden armor. He has a crown and a spear, again on a white horse. That is Constantine. And so he is now engaged in the battle. And so if you look in the back, sort of over his shoulder, you see the glory of Rome there, the eagle in its crest. But above that now is the cross. Now, this is a depiction artistically, obviously. I even appreciate that they're trying to show that even heaven was on Constantine's side, because angels have shown up into the battle, and they are armed. You see that one angel, if you can tell, has a sword in his hand. But what history teaches is that this symbol is actually a symbol that Constantine has placed on the shields of his soldiers. Now, the not exactly certainty area is, what is the symbol? Did he have the symbol of the cross painted on the shield? So is it the cross like in that artwork there? Was that what he had painted on the shield? Is it this symbol above me that he has painted on the shield, the CHI RHO? And it's possible that he would have already been familiar with this, because that symbol isn't in its originality a Christian symbol. That was used many years before, because the word kreston means good in Greek. And so if we have examples of where someone would be reading something and would scribble CHI RHO beside a part they thought was well written or very informed, like how you and I might highlight something today, they would have scribbled CHI RHO next to it just to call their attention for later review. So it same way, kreston starts with the same two Greek letters, chi and rho, and so that was applied to the word Christ later on. But it seems maybe because that would have been something familiar to Constantine, he would have used this symbol on their shields, or the cross. There's even another symbol that it could have been, and I'll show you that now, I hope. Yes, this is the tau rho. So you see the T and the rho remains, but the crossbar now, not an X, for tau, a capital T is what tau looks like. And this is the first two letters of the word for cross, if I'm remembering this right, stauros, cross, stauros, I guess. Anyway, I'll show you where it comes from, okay? So this is P66. This is an image from P66, one of the early manuscript pieces that we have. This is the gospel. This is from the Gospel of John. And you look right up there. I know you can see the yellow circle, and the yellow circle is blown up over there in the corner. That symbol, the tau rho, was used to mean the word cross. It was again the same sort of the T, and it looks like a cross almost, but they're using that so they don't have to spell out stauros and take up more of the papyrus or the leather that they're writing on, because space, you notice that none of these words have spaces between them because they're using as much of the writable area as possible. And so if they could have a shorthand way of writing a word like cross, then that's what they would do. Now, I can't, Mason is not going to be able to read this to you. I know that one of the places that this is very famously, and it could be this, I happen to know that this is P66, but this could be where it's saying in the gospel that Jesus was made to carry his cross. That could be what's being said there. I don't remember enough Greek to even use context clues to try to tell that, but that's what that symbol means. It seems unlikely that that's what Constantine would have had painted on those shields, but the CHI RHO or the cross, we don't know. Not that it matters, but the symbol itself finds its origin in this story, 312 AD, that Constantine has this vision in this conquer, and he sees a sign in the sky. Whether that sign is what you and I would recognize as the cross, or whether it's this symbol, this combination of letters to make him think of the Christ, I don't know. No one's ever going to know. But here, we can see some examples. Am I clicking right? Nope, this one. Here it is, carved into stone on its wheel. So you see, if I real quick go back, where the bird is inside of that wheel. I am pointing with my fingers, like you can see that. But where the bird is inside that wheel, that is common. That is the eagle, Rome. That was a serious deal. And so now you see further on in time, as Constantine not only becomes known as the first Christian emperor of Rome, but requires Christianity to become the legal religion of the empire, the CHI RHO takes the place of that eagle. So now it is sitting in that same place of honor, but the symbol pointing to Christ. Now, could we say, well, Jesus is good, so it could still mean that too? Sure, but it's lost that is not, no one looks at this that you see there and thinks, oh, that means good. No, that means Christ. That means Jesus. That is a symbol of Jesus in the early church now. And so here you see it being modified slightly, still inside of that wheel, but you see two other Greek letters inside of the empty spaces of the chi. On the left is an alpha, which is the first letter of the Greek alphabet. And so you probably already know what the other one is. That's omega, but it's the lowercase, or what we would call the lowercase version of omega, which you and I might say is a W. So it goes through sort of a transformational process. It's expressed, and all you simply go to Google today and type in CHI space RHO, and then hit enter, and look at the number of variations of this image that it's been artistically translated in all sorts of ways, but kind of went through a process of having simply the CHI RHO, then the CHI RHO in the wheel, then the CHI RHO with the alpha and the omega. And I don't know, did people not like the way the lowercase one looked? But here's another. You see it's not in a wheel exactly, but it's in almost like a crest. Hey, Brother Mason, what does that say around the outside of? I have no clue. I couldn't even tell you what language that is. It almost looks backwards. I don't know. But you see the CHI RHO simply to see the alpha and the omega. And then the next one I have here to show you that omega in its capital letter form, I sure hope I'm telling you that right, is what you may recognize as omega. And again, drawing from the first and the last, Jesus in the Revelation says that he is the first and the last. And so that is Jesus, CHI RHO, the first and the last. You see that there with the omega. And then I have one more for you, and that's here, where not only is it the CHI RHO for Christ, the alpha and omega, beginning and end, but you also begin to see, obviously this is modern, but even in old art and old references, it starts to have a crown associated with it. And I just picked this one because when crown is used in the New Testament, it is most often referring to what you and I would call a laurel crown. This is what Caesar wore, this image of a crown with leaves on it. And so when Paul talks about receiving a crown, this is the crown he's making reference to, not as you and I might sometimes think, like the big gold with jewels, like King of England stuff. This is what the crown of the emperor looked like. And so this meaning that he is crowned King of Kings, the beginning and the end, this Christ. And so you see all of these methods that this symbol is used, all pointing back to this battle of the Milvian Bridge. And this battle did take place in 312 AD. And he fought against, like I said, that guy, Maxinius. And in fact, Maxinius dies in this battle. They find his body floating in the river. They pull that body out and they decapitate it. I don't know. This is a little extreme back then, I suppose. But Constantine wins the battle. Constantine goes on to be recognized as the emperor of the Roman Empire. He is the first Christian emperor. He converts to Christianity. As a result, in part of this, his mother Helen goes on a pilgrimage into the land of Christ. And so much of today where we think certain events happen or where churches are built on. So there's the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where we believe Jesus is tomb to be. There's the church of where Jesus was born, and that's where we think, Mary and Joseph were. There's all this. Well, that happened because Helen went to all these places, and the history is that everywhere she was pointed, and it wouldn't have just been her by herself, but everywhere they were pointed to, oh yeah, that's where they buried that guy. Well, they would build a church there. And so that's why all these churches kind of spring up in that area, because they're marking all of these locations. All of that happens. All of that comes about as a result of Constantine's conversion, which is on the heels of this victory that he wins, that comes through this vision he has from heaven, according to his own testimony, in this conquer. So that is the origin of the CHI RHO symbol. It happens to be, for Brother Mason trivia, my second favorite of those ancient symbols. The Jerusalem cross, definitely not as old, being my first. So anyway, I just think that's super interesting. I hope you do too. All of these different things, they have Christian meanings, many of them Christian origin, but sometimes we see them, we might recognize them, but not know why or where they came from. And now you can at least no longer say that about such a famous and well-known symbol as the CHI RHO. Also, by the way, just a freebie, and I've probably mentioned it on here before, this is why people write Xmas. And if you were like me, when you were younger at least, I thought that meant, somewhere somebody told me that was taking Christ out of Christmas by Xing. No, it's literally using the same reasoning behind the CHI RHO symbol, the Xmas being a shorthand of Chi, Christ, the first letter of his title in Greek. Chimus, Christmas. So if you write Xmas, please don't think you're doing the work of the devil. You're just borrowing from what they were doing all those millennia ago. Let me pray just a prayer of thanksgiving for you being here with me. Again, I hope this is interesting. It is to me at least. But let's pray together. Almighty, as we just be still for a moment here at the end of our time, I just thank you again for the way in which you let me do this and be present with people even remotely. Thank you for these symbols that can stand to remind us of so much and teach us so much. Thank you for the history that they represent. And even, Father, I thank you for the meaning behind them and how we can use them today to profess our faith and our confession, even if it's just to start a conversation with someone. Thank you so much, really and truly, that there's so much to know and that it's just there for us to learn. We just point ourselves towards your truth. You pour it out upon us, and we are blessed because of it. Would you guide and guard every person that comes across these devotions, and would you bless them with the physical comfort of your own presence, Jesus, in all of the days they face ahead, so they might know you and trust you and tell of your goodness everywhere they go. I praise you. I live to do so. In your holy name, amen. Thank you all as always for being here tonight. I hope you learned something, and I hope it makes you want to come back next week to learn something else, because we've got more symbols to go. I'm probably going to delete away some of the stuff we've done and add some stuff to our wall here, but we'll deal with that as time sees fit. Now that we're finished, I remind you, though, go out into the world around you and pour kindness on every single person you come across, and do that all because because you've received that same kindness poured out by Jesus on you already. I love you so much, and I'll see you next time, okay? Good night. Goodbye.